Hello, Richardson, and I'm doing a big intro.
Wow. No, it's not. It's Ryan. I'll do a Ryan intro. Hello.
So that was you doing an intro, Ryan, as Anthony. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
because it was. We should be transparent. People will believe that was Anthony. And
yeah, that's true.
I am Ryan Baxter, the intern. Introduce yourselves. Go on, do it.
I'm Anthony Richardson, CEO of Footballland.
You're not supposed to say that bit. I'm Mark Davison, and the bit I'm not supposed to say is Chief Ride Engineer.
Well, we all got the tattoos, so it's a bit late for kind of backpedaling on that one, isn't it?
Are you regretting having yours tattooed across your forehead?
Yeah, right. 3 more rides, 2 ours, 1 somebody else's, correct?
Yes,
that's correct. And huge news as well, Ryan.
Yeah, massive news.
Another patron who has exclusive naming rights of the car park. His name's Ed Singleton.
Ed Singleton. He wants to name the car park.
This is not a car park like the Ceci n'est pas une pipe. One peep.
Yes. He's been very cheeky.
So hang on. Does that mean that we're going to have a bit of problem with that car park because people will not know whether to park in it? Is it going to be a completely empty car park, or are people going to understand the joke straight away?
I think even though we hope Footballland will be very, very successful, we do have an excess of car parks now. This is the 4th car park. So I think if one is signposted, this is not a car park, and it remains empty, that's fine.
Do you know what? It could be the staff car park.
True.
It could actually be the staff car park.
Yeah.
And you could put, this is not a, and then in really tiny letters, public car park.
Speaking, though, that's against Ed Singleton's wishes, and we have to obey his wishes.
I don't think you can speak for Ed Singleton.
There was no small print in his Patreon communications, so there is room to, manoeuvre. Let's say.
Great.
I'm loving all these patrons coming on board. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for our business. But are we going to end up having more car parks than park?
Yeah.
Well, great if so, because people love cars. And, Clarkson and Hammond and the other one, James May, they can come along, do a whole TV show in our parking lot. This is the biggest number of car parks per square mile in the world.
So people can have individual car parks maybe, or else they'll trek across the Qatari desert. They'll park right at the back of the 157th car park. They'll take most of the day to get into the park, where we've run out of space, and it's just a coconut shy with a wig on.
Speaking of which, let's get on with our rides then.
Yes.
What have you got, guys? Go on.
So I'm up first, and I will be doing Jay Jay Okocha's Pheonix Nights Club.
Right. Mark,
nice.
You've got the Patreon this week, Mark.
I'm doing the Patreon, yes, which is from Rob Lindsay, and he's called it the Paolo Di Canio Springere.
You've got to do the accent,
right.
Otherwise it doesn't.
The Paolo Di Canio Springere ride.
There you are.
Lovely. And I've got Chant If You Want to Go Faster.
But first, Mark, you've been doing some work for once.
Yeah, I decided I couldn't have another completely lazy week of doing absolutely sweet Football Association, so I have done an advert for Nick Miller's Whack-A-Mole. Here it is. Watford Whack-A-Mole.
Lovely stuff.
Ryan.
Yes.
Pheonix Nights, massive TV series in England in the 2000s.
Yes.
You've made a theme park ride out of it.
Yeah, I guess for the uninitiated, Pheonix Nights was a sitcom based around Peter Gay, who is a comedian from Bolton. So in honour of that, and in honour of Jay Jay Okocha, one of the greatest players ever to grace the Premier League, I've come up with Jay Jay Okocha's Pheonix Nights Club.
It's not a working men's club.
It's not a working men's club, and there's also a K on the nights, which is important,
Right.
which is doesn't necessarily come across in audio. Maybe
Like a night of old, like Heather Night.
Yeah, exactly.
Round table.
Yeah, and essentially, so we've got Asscoffiation Noshball, and we've got some other sort of food stalls, but we've not really got another restaurant, and particularly not a big restaurant to rival Asscoffiation Noshball. So I'm proposing a medieval-themed restaurant run by none other than Jay Jay Okocha.
Right. Has he on his Wikipedia any investments into the hospitality industry? Because he was great at free kicks, so he can serve things.
Yes.
How many waiters do you know pick their stuff onto the table of the people that have ordered it?
Well, it would be a great themed restaurant.
Yeah. I imagine Heston would be able to find some way to kind of make the food kind of stick to the plate and it be wanged and also then be edible off the plate. Yeah, so I'm not sure if either of you have been to one of these medieval themed restaurants, but the staff take it really quite seriously, don't they?
I've not been to one. I've seen them advertised and my reaction is to run as far away as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure whether they're sort of out of work actors or sort of people taking second jobs to let off some steam, but they love it. They sort of, like to shout at you and put you in your place if it's the king or the queen.
There's always a busty wench, isn't there, in a kind of unreconstructed, we can get away with being sexist and misogynistic because it's olden times.
Yeah. And the weirdest thing is that sort of the costumes are not really that accurate. They seem to be sort of borrowed from the German-themed restaurant. They just look sort of like the Lady Lederhosen type thing. Yeah, they have them in America as well, which I had no idea about, and the Americans take it way more seriously than we do. They've sort of turned it into a dining version of Gladiators.
Yeah.
So essentially, you've got Jay Jay Okocha's Pheonix Nights club, and there's only going to be one king or queen in this scenario, and it's Jay Jay Okocha.
Right.
He's the king. As he enters, let's say, we'll call it like the old Reebok arena. When he enters, you all have to sort of stand up and sort of bow to him, and he's going to have sort of a collection of hangers-on like they do in courts of ye olde days.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots of different roles and other bits of entertainment up for grabs, and that's definitely got to be from those sort of Bolton teams that he played for sure.
Who's the Pope then? Is it Sam Allardyce?
It's got to be Big Sam, hasn't it?
Probably got to be Big Sam. I was thinking Jussi Jääskeläinen's probably got to be the head waiter.
Ivan Campo?
Yeah, I had Fernando Hierro and Ivan Campo down as probably a couple of Spanish ambassadors.
Right, like courtiers.
Yeah, sort of
like
courtiers. They've come over from Prince Philip, whoever. They want to bend JJ Okocha's ear.
What the hell was going on with Bolton in the late noughties? I mean, that is a hell of a squad.
Well, early noughties, wasn't it?
I mean, not only did they have an amazing first team, they still managed to do fuck all.
I guess Big Sam was one of the first real kind of innovators, wasn't he, in terms of analytics, and he had a huge backroom staff and all of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. And so I guess the reason why they managed to pick up so many of these big names was partly that, partly come play in the Premier League, partly get a decent wage. But to answer the second bit of your question, I guess they were all aging.
Yeah. Do you want one last big, hurrah in the Premier League? Yeah. Can you not get into a better team? Come to Bolton. Brilliant.
I think that was the pitch.
Pretty much Portsmouth tried it as well, didn't they?
Although when Okocha was there, it wasn't the end of his career. His previous club was PSG, and he was the most expensive African player in the world when he joined PSG. Yeah. It was only a few years, 4 years later, that he joined Bolton. Maybe
the exception that proves the rule. I mean, it was odd that Anelka ended up there. I mean, I know he'd sort of pissed everybody off in the world off at that point, other than Sam Allardyce, of which I've just realised that this probably should be Sam Allardyce's Pheonix Nights club, because both him and the Peter Kay character drink vast sort of copious amounts of alcohol from pints of wine from flagons.
You can just imagine Sam Allardyce slathering over a busty wench as well, can't you?
Yeah, you could.
Yes. Chewing on a full oven-ready chicken.
It'd be good, though, with the Pope thing, if, we did see some smoke over a chimney, and that meant that Sam Allardyce was in town. But Henry VIII got rid of the Pope, didn't he? So that wouldn't actually work.
This is where it gets really interesting, because I guess this is, if we nail this down to that period, that's definitely where there's going to be some tensions, because obviously I think Okocha left mid-season, didn't he?
Some interesting facts about how they organised banquets in Henry VIII's time, I think relevant to Jay Jay Okocha's Pheonix Nights. Firstly, the amount of courses you had depending on your status.
Yes.
So Jay Jay Okocha as top dog would have 15, 16 courses, whereas if you're of low status, you just get one course.
Yeah. And you weren't allowed to eat more than the people above you either, right? You had to leave some on your plate.
If they stopped eating, you had to stop as well, yeah.
Yes.
Perhaps the greatest fact about Tudor banquets was they never did any washing up. They had vast amounts of crockery, and what they used to do is just chuck it out the window at the end of it into a river.
The Greek influence.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was Stelios Giannakopoulos. So maybe Stelios at the end is the busboy, and he comes around and collects all the plates, and instead of washing them, smashes them in a corner.
I'd want that job. That would be a great job.
What's the sort of Pheonix Nights aspect of it in terms of the working men's club sort of entertainment and general? Is there a guy going around on a mobility scooter, for example?
Not a mobility. I think we need to keep it in period.
Maybe we could have someone going around on a mobility pony.
I think essentially the only link to Pheonix Nights, the TV show here, is everybody has to speak in a Bolton accent for the whole night.
Okay.
Even the Spanish ambassadors.
I'm up for this in a big way. As long as people can kick the food on plates, because we had that at Asscoffiation Noshball, actually. We had spherical food that waiters can boot to you. But Jay Jay Okocha's free kicks were so immense and so sort of bendy, weren't they? That if someone can curl a cantaloupe melon around a wall and land it on your plate, as the starter.
Yeah. It's tantalising, isn't it? Because, the melon's coming for you and you're like, oh, my starter's coming. And then it bends away at the last minute and it goes to the person next to you and you're like, oh, God.
It would be amazing if he could land it on someone's head and they have to wear it for the rest of the banquet as a kind of big fruity helmet.
It really relies on him being at the top of his game. Otherwise, some people are just not eating. If he has an off night, and they're just all hitting sort of the back plasticast wall, and nobody eats. I was thinking Idika Johnson and sort of Gudny Bergson, they're sort of probably, I don't know whether Vikings, we're mixing it's fine, they're totally fine, they're Vikings, and they're
maybe they should be Vikings from the future, just to really mash it up.
They've come on their hovering longboats.
What role does Kevin Nolan play?
I'm not sure. I've focused on the sort of foreign dignitaries at the moment. I've got Yuri Djurkov as a French spy.
Well, Kevin Nolan's kind of like the not the dog's body, because he was the captain, wasn't he? But he kind of did everything, the grunt work, didn't he?
If he's on grunt duty, he just sits in the corner grunting.
No, well, because he wrote a very boring blog for the BBC Sport website for about 5 years, didn't he? And it was every week. It was very, very boring anecdotes. So maybe he could be a after dinner speaker who sends people to sleep.
Medieval times,
like Japanese no theatre.
I guess we need some kind of sword fighting or jousting. Probably that's going to be El Hadj Diouf for sure. Probably Nicholas Anelka. That's a jousting match I want to see on ponies. Probably. Maybe the mobility ponies could double up. I mean, I'm never going anywhere near a medieval banquet, but if El Hadj Diouf and Nicholas Anelka are jousting each other on mobility ponies, then I'm in. You couldn't get me away from...
Yeah. Would it be a mismatch if Idika Johnson on his hovercraft wrestled one of the ponies? Is that unfair? Or could a pony could puncture his inflatable skirt? There is an Achilles heel with hovercraft.
Is he wearing an inflatable skirt, or is the inflatable skirt on the hover longboat?
Well, I was about to say the latter, but I think him wearing an inflatable skirt is much better. If he's a Viking from the future, he would float in on an inflatable skirt and fight a pony.
Hover longboats are now like sort of those winkle picker shoes in the future. You've got an inflatable Tudor skirt, and in combination, it makes you sort of hover around. I'm definitely wearing both of those, and I'm definitely hovering my ass down to Jay Jay Okocha's Pheonix Nights Club to watch El Hadj Diouf and Nicholas Anelka joust it out on mobility ponies. All right then, I think that's probably it. I think we've pushed it as far as we can for now.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. After three, all say make a noise. 1, 2, 3. That's in.
Congratulations, Ryan. Congratulations.
Brilliant.
Dost thou want to eat chicken and wear ladies' tights? Then come to the banquet at Jay Jay Okocha's Pheonix Nights. Scoff down the meat lumps and toss away the bones. The history is all accurate, it's based on Game of Thrones. If you're landed gentry, there's 58 courses to take on. If you're stinky shit peasant, you go halves on an acorn. There's Pope Allardyce having a pint of mead with the ref. And who's this busty wench? Yes, it's Yuri Djorkaeff.
Mark, engagement time. You've got some engagement.
Yes, we've been engaged. We have been engaged by Rob Lindsay, who engaged us a couple of weeks ago. He then got back in touch with a ride, so we're featuring it this week. It is the Paolo Di Canio Springere ride, and Springere is Italian for push, stroke, shove. So Rob Lindsay writes, this will be a roller coaster ride of sharp ups and downs like Paolo Di Canio's career, with an added whirlwind of controversy. Nice. From the bad Paul Alcock push to the Sieg Heiling to the genius of that magnificent volley and skills, a real maverick of the footballing world. Many thanks, Rob Lindsay.
Rob.
Oh, it's not finished. It's not finished yet.
Good.
Many thanks, Rob Lindsay. Rob Lindsay's television credits include Citizen Smith, My Family, and a star cameo in Ricky Gervais's Extras.
Okay. I've got a slight issue here, Rob. Yeah. He hasn't actually pitched the ride; he's just said a name. So hang on, Rob. We've got to do the work for you.
Well, let's come at this from a different angle. He's a man after my own heart. You sow the seeds of inspiration, and then you watch it grow as a collaborative effort. That's what he's done.
Okay, Mark, you've got this Patreon. I guess you've been thinking of how you could adapt it.
Well, my thoughts were more focused on Paolo Di Canio. He's such a controversial figure. Yeah. I actually know a football journalist. I can't name him. He's quite famous these days. Early on in his what is currently a 30-year career, still going. Early on, he was sent to Italy to interview him, and he was absolutely terrified. And he said, of all the people he has ever interviewed in his career, Paolo Di Canio was the nicest, the most charismatic, and the most generous. He let him stay in his villa for multiple nights. Nothing was too much trouble. Shortly after that, he was then filmed giving a Nazi salute.
The stipulation, there was a lot of Nazi memorabilia on the walls of the bedroom, like in Father Ted.
He's got Benito Mussolini as a tattoo, hasn't he? He's openly said, I'm not racist, I'm a fascist, and he openly admires Benito Mussolini. He's a complicated guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can have a giant statue of Paolo Di Canio Sieg Heiling. We can't sort of pass this off like Wayne Hennessy.
He calls it a Roman salute. So that's nice. That's nice, isn't it? The Romans were nice. An interesting fact that I didn't know about his early years, which I think should be incorporated into this roller coaster somehow. When he was very young, he was totally addicted to fizzy drinks. Right. And his nickname was, I can't pronounce this properly, but palocca, which is a slang term meaning lard ball. He was fat, knock-kneed, and he had to wear orthopedic shoes.
He had to wear orthopedic shoes.
And that's what his Wikipedia entry says. Yeah. And so he said, rather than hiding from all the bullying and the taunts he got for being such a weird, almost disabled child, he exercised like his life depended on it and became the person he is today. Which, there is something
fascist,
inspirational and aspirational and utterly fascist about it, yes.
Okay, so bearing that in mind, what about a ride that is like a spinny sort of, lots of capsules? Imagine the London Eye, but on its side and raised up. So you've got a big spinning wheel with pods that people can sit in, and they shake up and down like the fizzy drink. And they go in and out, pushing, pulling, going round and round. But inside, it's lightly fascist wallpaper.
Lightly. What's fascist light look like in interior design?
Very classical Roman, sort of very straight lines and lots of pictures of eagles.
When you say orthopedic shoes, are they built-up shoes, or are they sort of supported arches? What are we? Because there's a whole range.
There's a whole range, and it's not specified. But I want the funniest ones. It does say he was knock-kneed, so the orthopedic shoes are probably more the kind of frame thing like polio victims had.
Or you get orthopedic shoes in the back of sort of Sunday supplements, don't you? And they're the sort of beige plastic ones that for old people.
You get to a certain age and you look at them and think, they look comfy.
Yeah, and you can wee on them. They're completely... You don't have to worry about your bowels. You can piss all over that leather because it's not leather, it's plastic.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I feel like we've been quite harsh on him, and I would like, in the interest of balance, I would like to redress that a little bit. a couple of things spring out. Like, he did score what is probably the greatest goal ever in the history of the Premier League. His goal against Wimbledon for West Ham in 2000
right. It was a good goal.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
He showed amazing sportsmanship, again, whilst at West Ham. If you remember, they were playing Everton, both vying for the winning goal, and in the dying seconds, Di Canio shunned an opportunity to score by catching the ball from a cross because he noticed the Everton goalkeeper was writhing around in agony. Now, if he'd nodded that home, no one would have blamed him, but he felt it was the wrong thing to do.
Well, that's the springy ride of it. That's the aspect. It would be, maybe it's a vertical ride where you've got heaven and hell kind of thing. You've got an imagining, so you're constantly springing upwards and downwards like a shaken can of fizzy drink. So you're in a capsule and you're going up, down, up, down, up, down between these two sort of the lofty ideals of scoring a brilliant goal against Wimbledon and the more controversial aspects, such as pushing a referee over onto his bottom and making him look silly. The consequence, and also doing the odd salute here and there.
Let's address that referee pushing thing.
Do you know what most likely happened on that day is that Paul Alcott forgot his boots, and Paolo Di Canio, being the lovely, squeaky clean, nice, lovely man that he is, lent him his orthopaedic shoes. Those beige, plastic, old lady orthopaedic shoes. He went, "Here you are, Paul." And then halfway through the game, he blew up for a foul, and Paolo went over, "What is it? What is it, Paul?" He put his hand on him. Just that was enough to throw him off balance and go down like an old lady. Paolo Di Canio is actually quite small, isn't he? I always thought he was quite...
He's 3'1".
So can we make this a really small... Not, I'm sorry, Rob. This has kind of evolved into essentially a very small fizzy drink going up and down. Some kind of scaffolding being shaken. It could have an arm attached to it to kind of at least give a nod that it's Di Canio, because people will immediately know that. And maybe sometimes so it goes up and down. If you imagine that, just a can in a hand, maybe up to the elbow, just going up and down, and then every now and then it goes forward and then back, and that's that's the pushing. Just a bit more agitation if that can.
Yeah. That doesn't really do justice to someone who, on a good day, totally lit up the Premier League.
Could it just be a vending machine? It's just a Paolo Di Canio vending machine where you basically put your pound in a slot and it's just it's a statue of Paolo Di Canio and he's got his arm up in a Roman salute and he picks up a fizzy drink and then he brings it up, down, shakes it forward and back, and like each like on his hand are various video highlights of his life reflecting each up and down motion. So down would be managing Swindon, up slightly higher managing Sunderland, down further the fascism thing, until the robot gives you your fizzy drink and it's completely undrinkable.
Very good.
When the robot gives it to you, he touches you lightly and you respond. If you like him, you stay upright. If you don't like him, you do a very theatrical fall over.
Okay, all in favour of Rob Lindsay's Springere ride, say aye. 3, 2, 1. Aye. Well done, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Congratulations.
Well done, Rob.
Young man, we're building Footballland. I said, young man, we could do with a hand. I said, young man, do you understand? You could get in on this. You need to head on to Patron now. Patron. Send us whatever you think. It might be good, it might stink. We will talk about it anyway. You need to head on to Patron now. Patron. Chuck in a couple of pound. We'll bat your thoughts all around, and it might just make our day.
Send us your ideas at patreon.com/Footballland. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, this is chance if you want to go faster, right? Ooh. So you know, scream if you want to go faster. Whenever you're at a fairground it's usually a pirate ship, isn't it? Like the galleon or the waltzers. The guy controlling the ride says into the microphone, "Scream if you want to go faster." And I do you know what? I don't actually ever know if that actually does anything. I don't know if the bloke controlling the ride has the actual capabilities in the control room to actually make it go quicker. I'm sure he just presses a button and the machine works, like, you know, when you're in a supermarket with a kid's Peppa Pig car, you put a quid in and it just goes for about 45 seconds and then you've lost your quid. Like, I'm sure that is the same sort of concept as your pirate ships of this world.
I mean, it would be great if those things in supermarkets had another level. That would be...
Scream if you want to go faster, 4-year-old. So this ride, right? It takes the concept, but actually, if you scream, if you chant, you actually do go faster, right? So the matchday experience that fans will know and love up and down the country is reflected in this ride. So it's a ride that rewards the volume of its riders, and it's competitive, okay? Yeah. It's based on your classic pirate ship, and there's 2 of them. They're both next to each other, okay? Yeah. And they're going the same direction. So they're like parallel to each other at the same time. Ooh. And one of them is the home fans, and the other is for the away fans, right?
How do we know that? Is one sort of smaller? They have to sit in the back of the galleon, and so it's a tiny allocation. It's sort of maybe 1/8. The galleon's 1/8 full, and that's the away team.
It's not 1/8 full. It's 1/8 the size. So you've got one galleon is a lot smaller than the other, but that's going to be ridden on by, you know, your hardcore ultra chanty fans. Right. So the louder you chant, the more noise you make as a group, the higher and faster your pirate ship will go. Okay. You get extra power as well by inventiveness of your chants, and in fact, any chants that diss the opposing galleon will cause theirs to slow down. All right.
So I was with you on the volume, because that's quite easy. A microphone and a little kind of meter can see that, indicate that. Who is it? Is it a machine, a robot, or a human that's judging?
It's a human in the control booth who'll be judging inventiveness of chants. Yeah. Also, it's unlikely that you'll be able to stand up in the home galleon, and we all know that chanting is louder when you stand up. The away galleon, it's not as heavily policed. You're not really allowed to stand up in your away galleon, but people do. And therefore, you know, although it's 1/8 of the size, they do have about parity in volume and noise. And certainly they're going to be better than the home galleon on inventiveness of chants. Although I don't know how that would work, because you'd probably have to get as a group together beforehand and get your inventiveness of chants going.
How does it work?
Yeah.
I've always wondered.
Well, I remember a documentary about Man United, and there was this they showed footage of this pub in like Stratford, like a guy on a piano and everyone round him, and he was like, right, what about this one about Ryan Giggs? Here he goes, Ryan Giggs. And I think that is how 90% of their chants actually did get invented.
George Formby is responsible for all the chanting in Stratford Inn.
With a ukulele, Right, so the idea of this is to do a full loop. Once you've done a full loop, that's the highest level you can achieve. The ride ends there and then, and it's 1-0. And that's it. It's always 1-0.
That might diminish some of the inventiveness and volume of the celebrations. If people know it's only ever going to be a 1-0.
Well,
it's sort of going to be like a Highbury-esque atmosphere, which was known for not being very vociferous.
Aren't we in danger of getting kind of people clubbing together, coming up with amazing chants and projecting at volume such that they get on, they instantly do a loop and it's over within seconds?
Well, I'd like to see that. I'd certainly like to see the quickest loop achieved, and that could go on the leaderboard. So yeah, why not?
I once worked on a Channel 5 sort of choir competition show, and that was it was judged by Emma Bunton and the guy from Blue. That was very successful because you've all heard of it. And it's kind of like that, you know, they all get together beforehand and they're all out there harmonising.
Yeah. They're on the pub going, Ryan Giggs, right?
They've got George Formby from Anthony's Fantasy.
Imagine some really angelic-looking choir boys all clubbing together. My old man said, be a City fan. I said, fuck off, bollocks, you're
on your point of what if one team like spend ages working on a chant before and they go full loop the loop. When you queue up for this, it's going to be very hard to queue up in a massive group and all be on the same song sheet literally beforehand. And obviously the people who work there are going to identify singers and non-singers beforehand so they can get them into the away ship and the home ship.
This is where I get a bit confused. This is where I am a bit confused. It starts to get a touch contrived. There's a lot of queue organisation going on. And the other question I had slightly was around the fact that all of the chants have to be ship related.
They don't. They can be like, you could pick someone out on the opposing ship.
Your galleon is fucking shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great though, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's just a bit weird. Like, there are all going to be Navy references like, oh, your man of war is inferior. You know what I mean?
Okay. What about, say, scale model recreation of an away stand in a famous football ground?
If that's the case, then I definitely want stewards untethered.
On board the ride, trying to sit people down.
I want stewards untethered in the home galleon / stand, and they should be working really hard to kind of try and sit people down, but are completely ineffectual.
And they're not tethered at all, so if it goes upside down and stays there, they will fall out.
100%. The away stand should be on a shorter sort of string or whatever, however it's tethered to the pivoty thing, so it's slightly higher, so the away fans can sort of throw things down or spit onto the home fans. That's essential.
And they should have like an alcohol policy that is barely policed in the away stand.
There should be a very skinny man with a very obviously fake large belly full of beer that everybody is taking sort of sips out of his belly from a pipe. Or there should be like a small child with a sort of Thomas the Tank Engine backpack. With you open it up and there's a 6-pack of extra strength lager in.
Rather than have them parallel, what about if they're facing each other and it becomes you just got to kick the other galleon to pieces?
Well, I think what's traditionally is normally they're at a very awkward angle, so you actually have to face away from the game. So if anything, if the home stand could keep sort of moving away, so wherever so maybe it's rather than just on a linear pivot going backwards and forwards, it's actually going round and round, so the away fans are having to keep turning around and pointing, paying no attention to whatever direction they're actually supposed to be looking
like
in.
the intimacy of facing each other, because you always get that where like someone in the away stand like physically points at another individual in the home stand, and directs their abuse.
You're going to get it after this if we weren't kept in the ground afterwards and then immediately put on a bus.
Meet me on, the dual carriageway by the services. Yeah, I think it's a Costa. Yeah, meet me in the car park there, you coward. So I quite like the intimacy of that. Right, okay. Let's have a vote on that. I'm very confident this is going to make it, but here we go. All in favour of chance, if you want to go faster, say aye. 3, 2, 1, aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm relieved. Thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Your boat's shit, and you know it is. Your boat's shit, and you know it is. Your boat's shit, and you know it is. Your boat's shit. And you know it is 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 your boat's shit. Your boat's shit. Your boat's really shit. 1-0.
What a week!
What a week!
Lovely.
What a week!
What a lovely that was.
That was a gamut, a range.
It was quite a foodie one, wasn't it? Quite a foodie one. We had some drink and we had some food, and then we had some shouting,
some fighting,
and then we threw it all up on the channel if you want to go faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. All right then. Well, let's disband.
All right. Cheerio. All right then. Bye.